There's something about a shower song, man.
Yes.
What is it?
It says a lot about you and how you feel about yourself. You're singing it in private to yourself.
Yeah.
And it's a reflection of how you feel. And you're in that element where you're like completely naked. And so you're just like one with yourself.
Vulnerable, but yet safe. I feel like I'm the safest in the shower.
Really?
Yeah, I feel super safe, even though I'm exposed, but not, right? Like you're in this box, it's tight, it's warm, it's cozy.
Yeah.
You volunteered to be there in the nude in your birthday suit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's very comfy, steamy, warm. You're in control.
True.
It's a safe place for me anyway.
Well, yeah, that's your interpretation of a shower. I don't think that's the universal interpretation of it.
I agree.
That is a particular interpretation of that experience.
I think it's evolved into that for me, for sure. It definitely wasn't like that before. Showers were, I won't get into that. But I didn't shower for like, I don't know, 3-4 months once.
Really?
Yeah, over and over. Like you would be in we would be somewhere in Iraq, right, in combat, and then you would just be on the go all the time, and you didn't have latrines, proper latrines and showers, so you would you would literally put a 5-gallon bucket on top of the Humvee, and you would drive around on a hot day doing your thing. The water would get hot. You would have your homeboy dump it on you once every 2 or 3 months, and you'd wash up and do your thing.
Oh, interesting.
So you go for a long time when you're in a combat situation without a shower.
And you're wearing a lot of clothes, right?
A ton of clothes.
Jesus, that must that's definitely taught you a lot, and that experience, I'm sure, like has a stain on you.
Yeah, for sure. We were talking about that last night.
Yeah.
You said New York had a stain on you.
New York has a stain on me. Yeah, for sure.
It left its stain on you, and it's not coming out.
No, it's not. It's a part of the fabric now.
Yeah.
And I can wash it as many times as I like, and I can like try to get the stain out, or I can put something on top of it, but it's still always going to be there. And, I'm wearing it.
Yeah. Damn. You were also saying multiple lives in relation to your experience in New York, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you've lived multiple lives. How many years were you there?
Well, it gets tricky when I talk about time, because I was spending summers there when I was in college. I would go and intern during the summer at like fashion editorial magazines. And so having that experience of New York, like being there as someone who was just like there for the summer and just being so wide-eyed and just being like someone who's like from the South and just getting that sort of like completely different vibe, because, when you're living or you're from below the Mason-Dixon line, like there are a lot of sort of just like cultural references and sort of like practices and, just the whole sort of like lifestyle is completely different. And I feel like in a way it's very restricted because you're trying to like fit this mold that's sort of been, I don't know if I want to say like watered down or sort of manipulated in a way that like thinks of Black people as, less than. And so I feel that in the South, like heavily, still do to this day. But when I go to the East Coast, like I don't necessarily feel that. So
in New York, nah, I didn't feel it. It was a very cultured environment there where color and race sort of begins to exist less.
Yes, that is probably my favorite thing about being having lived on the East Coast.
Yeah,
and I think that like it should be something that every person or every marginalized or oppressed like person should maybe experience living on the East Coast if they're living in the South, because it could be some sort of like institutionalized, I don't know, maybe cultural norm or something that's like really ridiculous, but it's sort of just like sort of ingrained into the culture and stratosphere of this one location. But you can move and maybe like it could change your whole outlook on life, and it could lead a better life for you just letting go of those like sort of attachments. Yeah,
a condition,
yeah,
an attachment.
Sure.
And we become attached to our conditions because they make us feel safe because we can relate to something that we related to when we were young.
Absolutely.
And therefore we choose our tribe around what our conditions were and what we were taught or what we think we believe.
Right.
Right.
And that's another, I mean, that speaks
I couldn't agree with you more is what I'm trying to say. Right, dude? Like, go culture yourself, people.
Please.
I mean,
please.
It's
the only way to really, like, I feel like for me, it's the only way to really have joy, because you need to understand and be able to conceptualize and internalize the things that you're experiencing on a deeper level than just like the visual. You need to be able to like feel things and sort of like experience things, you know, on a sort of like, I don't know if I want to say academic level, but at least on an intellectual level.
Totally.
It like that brings so much more joy. It's, you know.
And to get outside of that bubble is super important.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
It really is. And I think that for people who have not seen outside of the South, like, it would really be difficult for me to engage with you on a level beyond just thank you, no ma'am, yes ma'am.
Oh, word. Yeah.
I'm always going to respect people. I don't need you to be at a certain level or a certain class for me to respect you. Was not raised that way at all. So I think it just sort of, you know, you get what I'm trying to say, right?
I do. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Sometimes less is more.
This is the case.
Yeah.
I think we all understand. That's a huge growth moment, particularly like you said, where we come from, what we relate to.
Right.
Our eyes are instantly opened when we look around and are able to exist and surrounded by things of open-mindedness in ways. But yet there are areas in New York, coming from a lot of different places myself, right, that I found New York was rigid.
Oh, okay.
I was a little soft coming from the Pacific Northwest, Portland, you know what I mean, at the time. And then I was in Texas before that and was traveling all around. But before I went to New York, I was in Portland, which is pretty soft. I'm just going to be honest.
Compared to New York.
Oh, totally. There's a lot of places that are soft compared to New York, except for maybe like Shanghai or something of that nature. But Shanghai is a solid city. But that harshness that it was presented to me also had a softness to it. It was a little rigid on the outside, and people were a little hard. It had a soft, beautiful, romantic side to it that opens itself to you whenever you spend real quality time there.
I mean, it speaks to like having an experience. It really, it's like, it depends on your interpretation of it. Like, do you have a fixed mindset or do you have a growth mindset? If you have a growth mindset, New York City is a great place because you're willing to grow. Like your sort of, your attitude towards growth is a very positive one, and you're very open and flexible to expanding your mind and expanding your experiences. If you're that kind of person, I think New York City, like you're going to love it.
Totally.
And you're going to recommend it to everyone.
Oh yeah.
But not everyone has a growth mindset. Some people have a fixed mindset where they are sort of fixed upon like whatever cultural norms or whatever they were raised upon or whatever they like really lean towards. They're fixed upon this sort of this opinion or this belief or this object or whatever. They don't have any sort of flexibility. So I don't think New York is a place for a person like that. But a lot of people in New York are like that, and they come there for a job or an opportunity or whatever, and they're not experiencing New York as you're experiencing New York.
Sure.
So
yeah. No, I was looking for growth in New York, right? Everywhere I go, I'm looking for an opportunity to meet someone different with a different mindset and absorb that.
Same.
That's how I grow, big time.
Right.
I was thinking the other day about growth and how you can grow as rapidly as possible in a short period of time. Time, once again, comes up, right? But why is it so important to grow as fast as you can? Why not just enjoy the experience of growth? Well, okay, great. That sort of takes out the relevance of the limitation, and that's why there's a limitation on this physical form of being able to experience life in this physical form, right?
Right.
And therefore, that's where time comes into play, because you got a clock you're working against.
Right.
And so how do we squeeze in the most value in life, and the clock runs out?
Right. Because
we think there's an end.
Right. Yeah. Well, I can say one thing. We're definitely, as a society, we're fixated upon social comparison.
We all experience things in our own conditioning and beliefs and belief system and value
Absolutely.
system as you see it, right?
Absolutely.
That's a big deal, man.
I meet people all the time that say like, you like living up there? Or like, oh my God, are the people mean? Like people sometimes,
They can be perceived as mean.
Right. I mean, especially compared to like, I mean, now I'm living in Santa Monica. Like I go to the store, like people sort of, they don't remember your name all the time, but they're just much more personable, and they say hello when you walk in. Sort of, you're addressed as an individual,
right?
Not as just like a commodity or
exactly.
sell.
That's why I say New York is hard, for that reason, right?
Yeah.
They're seeing you as a number, an opportunity.
Yeah,
that's where it is.
And
it's a system.
The number turns so fast that it's like, and
it's a system, like you said, like there's pros and cons. Because it's a system that doesn't see color, it only sees money. It has a different problem of its own, is what I was trying to say earlier, that I didn't get to the point, is that New York is beautiful and it is culture because it sees money more than it sees color or race.
Yes.
If you see what I mean, because it's driven by a system of a socioeconomic system that's driven by not necessarily wealth, but the system of money that drives the city, just like every other city. But part of the culture of other cities is determined by the culture of the founders, the culture of the town. Like you drive up and down the PCH right here in Oceanside, you will not find a Starbucks. The culture of the city pushed that out, right? Don't allow it in. But just by putting 2 or 3 Starbucks on PCH here in Oceanside could change the whole MO of the city.
Oh yeah.
This domino effect that people study the activity of the socioeconomic spending of money as it relates to culture and design change for cities, just like New York, which is all by design leveraged on money.
Absolutely.
It's a system that gives no fuck about what color you are, where you're from, what your race is. And that's a beautiful thing about it.
Yeah, well, that's one beautiful aspect of it.
Right. But then there's the other hard side, which is what I'm relating to, is they don't see you as a person all the time. Some do. Don't get me wrong, but
yeah, I remember first moving to New York, and I found out about E.B. White's "This Is New York." Have you read that book?
No.
It is like a personal essay by E.B. White. It is so good.
Really?
It is so good, and it's very impactful, but it's so short. So it's like every word has just like a story behind it, and the choice of words is just like very telling. Yeah.
It's a true story told well.
Yeah, and you need to see it like in your like very early New York years. Like you can't wait until you're there 5 years and then read the book. No, you need to see it like in that first year.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Well, I've already been there. Like I don't know how many years I spent there, but it's not too late for me, right? I'm good.
You can still appreciate it. Okay. And, I mean, like there's so many ebooks. You can find it online for free. You don't even need to go to the store and buy it at this point. It's very popular. Yeah. So it's online.
I'll check it out.
You should.
My experience in New York was wonderful, for the record. I experienced life like I had never. Oh man. Yeah. It was good. We had good times there. Yeah. We had some epic times there. And now we're West Coast. And now you're in Santa Monica.
New York City made me reconsider who I thought I was.
Really?
Absolutely.
Tell me about that.
I had such a limited sort of perception of like what I could do, like what changes I can make, like how I can influence, how I can interact. Like New York literally like changed that. Like it's been like a teacher for me. It was like, it's like my parent.
I took a lesson away from the city, living there and spending enough time there, that when I walked away, I felt ambitious. I felt hungry. I felt like there was opportunity.
Well, everyone definitely has a story. Yeah. Especially in New York, but everyone has a story. That's why I love talking to all walks of life and connecting with all walks of life. Like, I mean, I've had situations where I've gotten in like an Uber or a Lyft, and like I connected with the driver, and like we got to a point where it was just like, it happened one time, actually, December 12th, the day of my birthday party. I got a Lyft from Whole Foods, and I got in the car with this gentleman who was he was the nicest guy, and he was also Black, and we talked about some things, some cultural things, but we also hit on some like sort of just like spiritual things, and we connected so well. And before I got out of the car, he was like, DeAndre, he was like, I really, honestly, he's like, I think you're a special person. He was like, I feel that energy all around you. He's like, I'm so much older than you. He's like, I don't even need to share my age. He was like, he made references about like 1942 as an adult. So I'm like, just,
damn.
you know,
He's an older
up there.
dude. Yeah, he's an older dude.
He's lived his life. And he was like, I just want to ask you one favor. He's like, because I think you're a special human being. And he said, I have no problem telling you that. He said, I want to pray for you. He said, because I'm going to be thinking about you for the rest of my life.
Damn.
He's like, you hold that kind of energy. He's like, do you mind praying with me before you get out of the car? And he was like, one other request. He was like, you open your door. He was like, and reach your hand to the window, and I want to hold your hand while I pray for you.
Bro, and you did it.
You did it. Oh my God. So I walked into they were like throwing me like a surprise birthday party.
And wait a minute, that's the conversation you walked away from as you were walking into a surprise birthday party you had no idea about.
I walked in already in tears. I was like, this is nothing compared to what I just did. I'm like, this is very nice.
Yeah,
this
that's pretty
house
wild,
is really
man.
nice, and this is a
What
valuable experience.
did you guys pray about, if you don't mind me asking?
He prayed for me in a very self-deprecating way. Like it wasn't even about him. It was about sort of like him sort of at a point in his life where he's like, I've lived my life, and DeAndre has a journey ahead of him, and I want to lay all my blessings on that journey, and I want to do it.
That's heavy, man.
It was really.
How did you respond to that? You just accepted it and let it.
I accepted
you
it.
just
and
ran with
I
it.
let my
and you were
emotions.
just like,
I let my emotions run wild. It was, you know, an experience that I can't compare it to a drug, because drugs are such a physical manifestation of a state of being. But I want to say, like, it emotionally sort of like rubbed my back.
Whoa, that sounds awesome, man.
It did.
Yeah, that sounds great.
And I don't get my back rubbed off. And so like, it was a really nice back rub.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
Dang, in a self-deprecating way. I can see that. I can imagine that situation.
Yeah.
Wow. Bless his heart, man. That's cool. What a cool experience.
I know, man.
Well, that's a hell of an experience, man, before a surprise birthday party, no doubt.
It was deep, man. That whole day, December 12th, 2020, I will never forget that day.
Man, I bet.
Forget.
I bet, dude.
Yeah.
Man.
A lot of magic.
When I met you, I think was something like
2015.
Yeah, it was probably 2015. And when I met you, I think the first few times we hung out, we were just chatting and catching up. Like nothing about really what we did or anything like that came up. We were just getting to know each other and where we came from and kind of mindset, and we vibed like that. And then, and we started to get to know each other. Turns out you were like, I think you texted me one day while I was up in Greenwich, Connecticut on the weekend, and you were like, hey man, if you get a chance, pick up one of the new J. Crew magazines. I swear to you, I was like 3 blocks away from the J. Crew that's on Greenwich Village in Greenwich, and we went by and picked one up, and I was probably looking at the page within 10 minutes. You know what I'm saying? Which was beautiful. But that being said, like that was only one part of the life that you lived.
Right.
And that sort of journey of New York, which started Texas to New York, but then there was some travel abroad.
Right.
And then you came back.
Yeah. So I've lived so many different lives, and they've all been like rewarding in different ways. But New York just had like, I feel like, honestly, like, I mean, that's why I became a man, for sure. New York is definitely where I became a man, but I've lived so many different lives there and they've all been really rewarding, because, I mean, not to get off topic, but I don't know if people understand that when you're a desirable person, like I'm a desirable person because of the way that I look, the way that I carry myself, like, so people consider me desirable. When you're a desirable person, like your life experience is very privileged. It's very privileged. And people associate privilege usually with like money or having some sort of like material wealth and like being able to, but it's not, I mean, I can speak for it, like not quite. Like I've lived such a privileged life, and because of the fact that I'm desirable, something that I was born with. And like, I'm so appreciative of that, because like that, I mean, that facet of myself accounts for so much of the experiences and the opportunities that I've had. And it is probably for the rest of my life. And so when I talk about my experiences and like the walks of life that I've lived, like I have to speak to that part of myself.
That energy that you speak of, that's a draw to, right? To you.
Yeah.
That's an energy that you were born with.
Yes.
That's my translation of what you're saying. Do you understand? If that's relatable to you. we carry an energy around with us, and some of us carry an energy that definitely draws people to us.
Absolutely.
It's a combination not only of the aesthetic, it's many things that come with the package.
And it feels non-threatening. It feels warm. It feels like open. It feels sort of welcoming. Like there are a lot of things that we go through in life that sort of like add to that nature of ourselves. But I think that there is definitely some sort of, something that we've innately absorbed from, whether it be like our parents or our ancestors or just the universe as a whole. But it definitely has a birthplace.
I think the energy that you're carrying around with you, all of that birthplace and origin and parents and experiences and all the stuff that comes along with the gig that your journey has dealt. You know what I mean? That's the energy. And part of that is, like you were saying, a privilege in many ways as an element of the energy you carry. Some people, I think, carry around other kinds of energy with them, and they're energy suckers. Do you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Have you ever met people this way?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I always say, like, I have a savior complex, to where, like, part of my trauma from childhood and probably generational trauma is the fact that I like to be the hero in situations. Especially, I can almost anticipate your needs. Like, if you're ill and you're around me, and I don't really have to know you that well, like, I just have to sort of like be around you enough to where, like, I've internalized whatever you're going through as my own pain, because I have a savior complex.
Damn, bro.
And it's a very deep childhood trauma that people don't usually accept as trauma. They think that, like, being a hero is a really good thing, but, like, no. Playing
it's a liability.
Yes, playing save a hoe is actually that's trauma, and people need to know that, seriously.
Yeah.
That's
No,
trauma.
It's real, and we need people to tell us straight like that, because it's like that, right?
Yeah. There's a song, it's actually, I don't know who it's by, but it goes like, don't save her, she don't want to be saved, don't save her. I always think of that when I get into that sort of complex. That song starts playing, I'm like, don't save her,
she don't want to be saved.
Yeah, save her. Yeah. I start to think of that because I have that complex, and I always want to, like, jump in. I've met a lot of people, like, but I have a really, it's such an interest, it's a story that, it's, for me now, it's like, as I get older, it's like funny, but like back then I'm like, oh my God, this is such a profound moment in my life, because I discovered so much about myself and about, like, what people think of me. Because I was literally just at a restaurant, and, like, I saw this woman who, she seemed cool. Like, I sort of like gauged her sort of aura for a minute before I went over to, like, say something to her. But as I was gauging her, I was like, she's cool. I'm like, I like her vibe. I was like, she just, like, has good energy around her. And I'm like, there's something sort of like really sort of like connecting me to her, like on a non-physical level. So, and then I saw at one point, like, she like turned her head and then she turned it back. And then, like, you can see that she had like extensions in the back of her head. Like the track was like showing, like the extension or whatever. And I'm like, damn, I'm like, fuck, like, everybody probably notices. Let me go fucking help her out, because at this point I've been engaging her because she's really cute. And I'm like, let me go help her out. Like, I want to, like, let her know, or just like shake her hair for her or whatever.
Yo,
just, like,
if I go over and do that to somebody, they're gonna turn around and whack me with a bag.
Well,
I'm just saying.
I did it so subtly, and, like,
oh, I know you can pull it off. I've seen you pull this kind of shit off like it's nothing, dude.
Yeah.
But me, nah. I get whacked with a bag.
But anyway, that was my savior complex that jumps in.
Right.
Like, and I went over and, like, I sort of like did it in a way, like, very indiscreet. And I looked at her and I was like, I like your sunglasses. She's like, thank you. And I'm like, I have some too. And I was like, you want to see mine? She's like, yeah, I want to see them. Not even really looking at me, but, like, acknowledging me, but not really looking at me. So I came back. I had the coolest fucking sunglasses, because I was kind of flirting with her too. I had the coolest sunglasses.
This is the cutest story of a savior complex I've ever heard, dude. Because there's some really nasty savior complex stories that you probably could have dropped, and this is probably the cutest one I've heard yet.
Yeah, but I went and got my sunglasses and I put them on, and I go back and I say, like,
you were so proud. That was like the proudest moment.
Oh yeah,
dude.
For sure. I tap her on her shoulder, and I'm like, these are my, I was like, look. And she turns her head and she was like, she's like, who the fuck is this guy? These sunglasses, they were fucking, Logan, I'm telling you, they're all about so amazing. Dude. Yeah, these were amazing. She's like, oh my God, those are amazing. And I was like, yeah, I know. So then
the things we connect over, man.
Yeah.
Just some
so
sunglasses.
Her face is turning red. Like, and I walk away from her and like go sit back down or whatever. And then I notice she's still turned around looking at me, like hasn't gone back to her food. She's just like in her chair turned towards me, which is like my seat, which is behind
Just
her.
staring you down a bit.
Just like, who the fuck is that?
And
But anyway, long story short, my savior complex went to save someone. I found out a couple weeks later, her family was one of the wealthiest families in America.
Oh, dang. All right.
And so my savior complex kicked in for someone who I didn't know. She didn't seem like she had wealth at all.
I see.
She had no
point.
jewelry, no nothing. But my savior complex still said that this is someone who I need to help. When in reality, like she could do so many things for me and has been instrumental in my life. But I don't even consider her wealth. It was me. That was my savior complex that jumped in and said, like, I love this person and I want to help her out in this moment. And I connected with someone who was on that level and I did not know. And I found out weeks later just from watching TV.
Interesting.
Yeah, I was watching the game.
And you guys stay connected.
Yeah. We stayed connected. But anyway, it was just like a point where I know I have that savior complex, and it was really fun to think about. Like that savior complex even kicks in.
The simple things too.
It kicks in. It doesn't matter who that person is or what that person has.
Or how big of a deal it is.
Yeah, it's just me wanting to like
a hair extension.
Yes.
All over that.
That hair
Something
extension
so simple.
that I saw other people probably were looking at, and I'm like, okay, she wouldn't want that, so I wouldn't want that for her. So
Yo, isn't it crazy how like the smallest thing becomes this pivotal journey in one's life?
Yes.
It's crazy.
For sure.
But you open that door, not only through a savior complex, but through your openness of being open to talk to people, right? On the same platform that you and I met, right?
Exactly.
Where we were open to have a discussion.
Yes.
At the Standard over a burger. I remember how that went down.
And there are people just on that plane.
When
I come across
open to it.
When I come to contact people on that plane, we usually vibe, and then we stay in contact. Even over the years' time, we're like on different coasts. We're just like sort of like finding ways to just like check in with one another and support one another, and you know, just like see what their vibe is at the time. Like we're not looking at the media or like looking at TV for like references. We're like going straight to our network because we're going straight to each other because we know that we're just really dynamic individuals.
No doubt. I gained a lot of perspective today in our conversations.
Yeah.
Man, we had such a good day cruising the coast. It was such a beautiful day.
And it was so like Kodak picturesque, but I was like, damn, I don't want to put my phone out right now. I'm like, I'm so in this moment. I'm like, a phone doesn't even fit this environment. I'm like, an iPhone, a smartphone doesn't fit this environment. If I had a flip phone, I would have had it out and I've been taking a bunch of pictures.
I don't even know what that reference means. Are you trying to say we're a flip phone county? Well, are you trying to say San Diego's a flip phone county? Like we haven't even evolved to the smartphone yet for camera.
First of all, it's a compliment because I feel like it's stuck in a time that it's not relying upon like stimulants that are so artificial.
I cannot stop thinking about how much of a paradise it is, man.
Right, because when you relying
you lived that today, man. It was beautiful.
We lived that, yeah.
Man.
I'm in Santa Monica right now. Like, we're still relying upon like technology and smart.
It's a beautiful area up in Santa Monica. Beautiful.
For sure.
I feel that hard. It's
really
a different vibe though, for sure.
Absolutely.
It's not a flip phone camera vibe.
No, it's not. It's definitely a smartphone vibe.
So Venice and Santa Monica, what's the gig, man? What's your takeaway? You've never lived West Coast before, right?
No, I've never lived West Coast before, and I had not spent enough time out here to even like sort of like speak to the sort of this side of the coast. But you know, now that I've been here, people will tell me like you're a chameleon. They're like, oh my God, California really fits you. Like you fit right in. But I'm like,
you should be a detective. You know what I mean? You get a lot of information from people if you wanted to. Being that chameleon.
I think I can do something better though.
Undercover.
I can use that talent. I can use that better.
I agree. All right. Yeah. So you were in New York how long?
In total, about 8 years.
That's a long time, man.
10. I think like
to
10
come
years
West
in total,
Coast
because the first summer I spent there was 2009. So that would have been it's been like over a decade. But I lived there permanently.
And you haven't even spent 6 months out here yet.
No, I have not.
Yeah. So you're in the honeymoon stage.
I am.
Plus during COVID.
Very much. Yeah.
Bro.
Yeah.
Bro. It must have been paradise up there. in Santa Monica and Malibu, having the beaches to yourself, having the ocean air to yourself, having the walks to yourself, all that, doing the thing.
So nice. When I first got to Cali, like I met this girl and we were like kicking it, you know, doing a thing or whatever. And like she lived in Venice. So like driving from Santa Monica like to her place, we were in the same neighborhood. It was like a 5-6 minute drive, but like just the route there was like so fucking good. But even if I was in a bad mood, by the time I got to her place, I was in a good mood just because of the sensory.
That ride today down south to La Jolla Hills,
yeah,
bro. I mean,
it's more than sight.
You can't.
It's sound.
Like
it's smell. It's like it's audio. It's all of that.
Yeah. No, it's a really special place, man. We talked about everything today, man. We talked about aliens. We talked about UFOs. We talked about NASA.
Yeah.
This UFO talk, it was blowing my tiny little brain, bro. You and I were talking about aliens. Well, not aliens, but maybe humans not being from this planet.
Right. Not originating from
That's
this
a
planet.
stretch.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
I think it's I think it's totally plausible. And I honestly like sort of I've gone with that idea and I've sort of internalized it and I've made sense of it. So I'm really open to it enough to where like I can speak on it and say like, here's what I think.
Yeah. Well, I watched the movie a while back about this, like about
There's
this
so
topic.
many movies.
There's so many movies
Was it a
about this topic.
documentary, or-
No, it was a movie. And you know, they did it up. Like all aliens look like crazy ass insects.
Right. Which
Yeah,
you
which
mind
I
me
mean-
asking which one it was?
I can't remember.
Was it Contact with like I think it's like Julianne Moore and Forrest Whitaker?
I don't know. I can't remember any people's names or movies' names because
really?
I don't know. I just watch the thing for like, I study it more than anything for production and entertainment kind of stuff.
Same.
Production, editing, you know, acting. I'm looking at it from a total like
I'm the same way.
educational perspective.
I'm the same way.
I can't remember their names. But what I will say is the concept behind the movie was basically that these aliens come down and they drop this seed and a dude here to manage like the growth of the alien species that looks a hell of a lot like humans, okay? And then they create humans and humans exist. And this was like before anything, and it took us a while to get here. We were dropped into a stream, our DNA was passed along, and that DNA finally evolved into, you know, what it evolved into, and that consciousness came with it, so that that our consciousness came to Earth through an alien life form on like sort of a little trial test, you know, on a UFO or whatever. Which, you know, look, like I'm not tripping about that as an idea. That sounds like a really cool movie, and it sounds like a really cool idea, and I would be interested in learning more about the science behind a concept like that. But I mean, the fact that it was a movie sort of, you know, makes me doubt it.
Well, it shouldn't, because most movies are drawn from the sort of
Books
like,
and education, like a high level and degree of research. I
Right.
get it.
And the movie usually comes out before like scientists even start to like delve into the idea of it.
Yeah.
Because they've always known.
I think in my mind, like the essence of where humanity came from and consciousness came from, I cannot determine a definite answer. However, I do believe that it came from somewhere in the universe, and I'm okay with that. I've actually become so okay with it that I've built a whole mindset around that. Because it's a simple answer, right? If I came from the universe and consciousness came from the universe, regardless of if it was, you know, planted here by intent or if it was happened by accident through evolution, I'm good with consciousness being an evolutionary sort of existence game. Not a game like Nintendo game or a chess game or, you know, an artificial game created for learning strategy. Not these kind of games. I mean, like, this is a gig. It's a thing that happened. It occurred. I don't think it's intentional, like a systematic intent behind the existence of humanity.
I mean, I like that because it actually speaks to like your ego. Like that you must have like your ego really in check to be able to say like, I'm willing to be like this small in the grand scheme of things, and I'm okay with that idea that I'm this small, this minuscule on this grand level. But you know, I just think that speaks to your ego. And I think when you talk about like life outside of this planet or UFOs or anything that like exists beyond us and that is more powerful or more advanced than us, like people's answers usually just speak to their ego, like what they feel about themselves. It's the kind of topic that really pulls out like, what do you really feel about like your life and, you know, the trajectory of your life and like
the value you're adding to the whole community.
And where are you spiritually?
Right.
I think like people's opinions of UFOs and extraterrestrials and, you know, any sort of like life, whether it be molecular or intelligent life outside this planet, I think it speaks to people's, you know, your ego, the size of your ego, which, you know.
I take that as a compliment. Thank you.
As you should.
On that same note about existence and kind of what we're drawn to, and I like I said, you know, I would like to learn more and do more research in the science behind that. Something that I feel like I am more drawn to equally as much as this universal kind of existence and unintended. I don't know that the intent really, that part is super important, but there's just so many things out there that says you were put here for a purpose, and our purpose is X, Y, and Z, you know?
Mind control.
Exactly. Yeah, totally. Thank you, marketing and advertising firms and all of that to figure us out. Man, they're super sharp and figured out the human equation, right?
And some of these like public figures.
Tell me what I think.
Unquote, famous people, like
Yeah.
they are literally trying to present themselves not only as celebrities, but as gods.
Yeah,
They
it's
want you to
crazy.
believe that like whatever they're saying or whatever they're doing is like what the Almighty represents.
Word.
Yeah.
So there's so much stuff out there. I mean, some of it what we consider to be right or wrong is up to, once again, our belief systems and value systems and conditioning, et cetera. I think what I'm really drawn to is the earth. And that's something that I cannot dismiss anymore. I'm drawn and so connected to the earth, which to me is the universe. I mean, come on, these rocks we're floating around on in space and time have gotta have been bumping around for a while.
Absolutely.
In the universe and our solar systems. They've been bumping around and shit's been bumping into us for billions of years, bro.
Absolutely.
When you think about that, how can you not feel small and insignificant? And what do we think? There's some big grand fireworks show at the end of this gig for humans or something? Like, what are we shooting for, guys? Is this going to be the greatest documentary the next version of us gets to see? Okay, great. It's going to be in a textbook. So fucking what? Go have a good day. Like, just go enjoy your experience for, like, let's just chill out. Is what I'm trying to say. Like, I'm so drawn to Earth. And whenever I get closer and closer to Mother Earth, I'm so drawn to it and respect it and the integrity of that relationship I have with that, which is the closest physical thing I can relate to the universe.
Okay.
Mother Nature and the earth, that is my God, bro.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that is it. That's the thing.
What's physical and tangible?
Well, the earth and me. But what I'm saying is the feeling, the essence and the feeling that I get from being connected, that experience we were talking about before, right? Where you are, the lens you're looking through, the value systems that we have, it's all conditioning. But when you shed all of that stuff out, when does that, it's not even intentional when it happens. You feel just there, here, not even there, but here, now. There's no word to describe the feeling that you feel when you're in nature. The other day when you were in Malibu and you were in the water, you've been talking about it all day. You've been thinking about it since it happened. It was in nature. That is the thing.
Right. I was having, like I spoke to before, like, I feel like you're having a conversation with the universe. Like, and I think that it takes like these really sort of like simple moments where you're in a situation where there's like minimal sort of stimulation. You're just like at one with yourself and there's not much imagery around. You're sort of just like within, but you're also sort of like, you know, a physical being, so you're also cognizant of what's going on around you and you're just at one with the universe. And I think that, like, for me, it's like I know when I'm having these conversations with the universe, and when I don't like that conversation, I know there's something in my life that I need to change, because that's, for me, that's my guide. It's like, it's that inner voice that I feel like connects me to the universe. And if I don't like the conversation that's going on, like if we're having some sort of whatever it may be, like I feel that sort of riffraff, and I'll do something about it immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Push it out.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
I feel that.
For sure.
I feel that. I think that connectivity, what I'm referring to is using your experience a day or so ago as the example. It happened in nature. Mm-hmm. And I'm only using that as a nature. It's a set precedent for my point, which is I feel the most connected to who I am and yet where I think we all came from when I'm in nature. Mm-hmm. And I would like to believe that just about every single person that's ever been in nature and vulnerable and opened themselves to be vulnerable in nature could relate to that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even when I think about nature, I think about like experiential wealth, which is it's definitely a term that we could like go down the rabbit hole with, but I'll keep it brief. I feel like experiential wealth is, for me, most of the time is dealing with nature. And it's the concept that the experiences that you're having is becoming a resource for you. Like these experiences are drawing up like resources for you because you're able to sort of like speak on these like experiences to other people that have resources outside of your own, and you can connect with those people based on those, just off those, the referencing these experiences. And so like it becomes like experiential wealth. It's a resource for you. And
the collective life, like you were referring to at lunch,
mm-hmm.
the collective life.
Yes.
Grander than the body's experience.
Absolutely.
I think we were talking about this at lunch a bit.
We can go down a rabbit hole with a lot of these concepts, but I think that like when I think about life, I more so lean towards people who are invested in experiential wealth more so than material wealth. You're thinking about like going out in nature, taking that into your life plan. Like you sort of like, you need to do that regularly. Like that's something that you consider like, vital in your life. That speaks to experiential wealth. Like
the time spent with each other, time affluence.
Yes.
Time
affluence is another thing. When you get a job offer, like, and they say like, okay, you're gonna be like doing this and that. You're gonna get paid this much and that much. Like, are you even thinking about how much of that time is going to be like beneficial for your well-being? Or you more so now sort of programmed or sort of like sold on this idea of making this amount of money, and this amount of money is going to make you happier because you're going to be able to afford this and that and that. Like, is that an intelligent assumption? Like, or is that more so like your conditioning from like the media and social comparison, and you wanted to make more than like your friends or your coworkers? Or is it more so like, are you really thinking about like economically, like I'm going to be able to afford this, that, this and that? Or is your brain more so turning to an absolute, saying that you need to make more than your comrades, you need to make more than your friend or your best friend or your hairdresser or your girlfriend that went to the same school as you? Like, more so, I think people are drawn to the social comparison part of it, and they feel like that's going to make them happier. And that's why more money, when people ask for bigger salaries, it never makes them happier, because they're drawn to it for the wrong reasons. They're trying to fill this void of social comparison and like making more than their counterparts or someone they went to school with or someone they dated, and being able to like afford a better lifestyle. But is that really making you happy, or is that just like your mind thinking in terms of absolutes and you wanting to like just sort of win this race that's never ending? Actually,
it seems that way, doesn't it?
Never ending.
Yeah,
you're always wanting,
like Sisyphus pushing the rock up the hill forever, and Absolutely. It never gets to the top and moves over the hill. It's just a constant climb and a constant struggle up.
That's why it's so important to like stop and go within.
Yeah,
you can't just be in this realm and just be.
But where do we find our value system then? Because everything you just said was a measuring our actions and how we spend our money and where we spend our time is what we see value in, and therefore we choose that. But what we again see,
and because who's determining what you value? That's what you have to.
We are
to address
by
that.
What we see. We are the determining element. However, we are being persuaded or manipulated, however you would like to say it, to believe that our value system,
I like your choice of words,
is determined not by others, but by our choices, because we were given that right as a human species to choose. But the fucked up part about it is that we are so preconditioned to think that the value of discussion and togetherness and community, regardless of how much money you make, is something that two people like you and I can totally relate to.
Right.
When on the flip side of it, you've got a value system where people value the things as you had described before, but it is of no fault of ours or theirs or anyone's. It is the system of which that they growed up in that but persuades us and conditions us to believe in our own value systems and cherish that because we've seen it work for the others around us. So where did we go wrong in the process? Because we can sit here all day long and all night long and say, you know, this is the way we look at things, this is the way those folks look at things, but we all still sort of sit here with the same ambition, which is what? To be accepted, to be together.
Validation. I think validation and acceptance are sort of like, you can put a slash. Yeah.
I spend my money and my time on the things that I value. If I thought that I was the one who put those things in my mind that I thought I saw value in, I'm wrong. No, I'm making reference points from all the things that I've gathered over time in my experiences to determine what the current lifestyle and vision of my current life is.
And maybe you're even bringing over ideas from your past lives.
And you know, dude, I reconcile that every single day. I'm constantly questioning myself, dude, in my relationships and the conversations and my approach to things. And I think that I'm constantly questioning that to be better or to find a better experience for me and the people that I'm around, to be quite frank. Like if I were to shed the fat from all the experiences that we have in a day, to shed that kind of fat in the conversations and boil it down to why did I still stand there for the extra 5 minutes and have that conversation with this person? To gain some extra value in that experience, to get more, like to grow.
Right.
And I think that I fall short oftentimes whenever I just go back to my house, back to my cars, back to my regular life, and I try to see value. You know what I mean? It's not regular at all. It's not regular at all, but it's mine. But I'm surrounded by walls and things, and like walls, like a house and things and a community that was not created by me. Like I'm totally delusional if I believe that I chose this for myself. Do you see what I'm saying?
I do.
It's creepy to think about, but I've settled into the facts that like I'm wandering around here like being super smart, doing my shit, I think, right?
Yeah.
You know, but I'm picking up data points the whole way and I'm using that to create a whole nother what I think is a new path ahead. And it is, don't get me wrong, but I certainly feel like I've done this before. I definitely feel like I've done this before, and I'm trying to work out a new way to do it every second of the day.
Gotcha.
That I can learn something from.
Yeah.
That's my lens.
Yeah.
These days.
Well, that's a growth mindset. Like you're always like looking to grow.
I don't want to feel like I'm putting myself in a box, because then I start having conversations coming from a person who put himself in a box. And if someone had told me earlier on in life that I need to not see all this deception and all this manipulation and all the marketing and the advertising that's being forced down our throats, bro.
Yeah.
It's all about the lens.
I mean, and sometimes people say, like, I hear a lot of like, you know, I guess materially successful people say, you're responsible for yourself. Like, don't blame anyone else for your problems. You have all the tools you need to succeed. Like a lot of these like motivational speakers, like I don't need to go into names, but you know, they profit off of this idea that like, they're sort of telling people like, get off your ass and work. Like you got everything you need to fucking, you know, be successful. You got everything you need to be, you know, whoever you dream of being, when it's not true at all. It's not true.
Talk to me about that.
I mean, it's not true because, there are, when you can look around the world, like there's talent everywhere. You can go no matter where. You could go to what we consider a third world country, which I think it's
I don't think
kind
we're
of
supposed to
problematic,
use
but-
like third, fourth world
it's
references.
kind of problematic. Yeah.
Yeah.
But whatever. If you go to a country like, really
A less wealthy country than the Western world.
right, a way less wealthy country, you'll find talent there for sure. Some of the best talent,
most epic talent. Yes.
But will you find opportunity there? No. So when you look at, the way of the world and like where we live and like where we grew up or where we were born, like that matters a lot because there's opportunity in certain places, but there is zero opportunity in certain places, but there's talent everywhere.
Yeah.
But some of that talent will never see the light of opportunity. Most of that talent will never see the light of opportunity. So you got to think about like that whole concept is worth a dive.
No doubt, dude.
Yeah, because then you can get really spiritual about it and say like, what made you special? What made you sort of like, what exam or what sort of application got you into the privileged life?
Yeah. I don't even see it that way anymore. I see it as a series of choices that I think I made.
But you were still sort of like born into a more privileged situation.
I think that I was born into a more privileged situation than a ton of people.
Oh, than most people.
But if I'm being totally honest, I was born, depending on what you see privilege as, right? Because I was actually, if you take from a financial perspective, I was absolutely not born into a privileged situation.
I usually don't take financials. I usually don't even consider that because I know better.
Yeah, but my value system came from this dialogue with exceptionally good conversationalists. My family, exceptionally sharp people who dared to tempt the concepts of conventional thinking. And that's
where you find the best people.
Was a fucking privilege beyond monetary wealth.
Right.
In every capacity, in my humble opinion.
Absolutely.
Man, just to say that out loud and reflect on that feels pretty good.
I was so glad, Logan. Honestly, I'm so glad that the experiences that I've had with like being like in this sort of like New York situation where I was like around high society and like the super wealthy, not just like money, like no, like beyond, like I'm talking about like staff and like having like the private jet.
That doesn't happen by accident. These are smart people. Is
Exactly.
what you're getting at, right? Like,
Exactly.
Granted, there was that stuff, but what you're getting at is you were privileged.
And those people, I meant like you. I meant like I met
able
you
to
kind
have
of,
a conversation with them and spend time with them and get to know them.
Right, because you get to see that side of life, and beyond that, like I met them, like I met you. Like they didn't care about like what school I graduated from, or like what my GPA was, or what my resume was, or how much money I had. No, it's about just like a vibe, and it's like, they trust you. They'll they trust me enough to where like I've been into their personal compounds, and so that for me, like having that at a very like young age, at a really tender age, like it kind of got that out the way, because I think a lot of us are sort of like fed this idea that like the more money, the more happier. And so like I'm really glad that like at a young age I was able to see that, have that experience, and be able to sort of like reference that experience whenever I'm like looking forward to something that's sort of only material, and know that like you're happy about that for other reasons. Like try to address those reasons and try to address why you're happy about that, and and learn something from that. And you probably when you delve down deep enough, you're probably not going to even want what you thought you wanted anymore. Miswanting is another part of our brains that like we're actually, even now with smartphones and constant stimulation of social media and advertising, we're miswanting more now than ever. Like we are wanting things that like we don't really even want. We're just more so like trying to fill this void of like social comparison. It's the biggest facet of that concept, but there's many others. We're miswanting a lot. We're thinking we want things, and we're buying things and investing in things that are not even conducive to our happiness. They're just conducive to this moment of like ego, or this moment of trauma, or this moment of vindication, and like that shit goes away really fast. Actually, it dissolves really fast. That's why I get compliments all the time. Like, and I've also, when I was younger, I was like teased a lot because I was really thin, and I was there was so much toxic masculinity within the neighborhood and the community that I was around, that I was teased a lot. And honestly, like at that point in my life when I was being teased so much, like I figured out a way to sort of departmentalize people's opinions of me. And what I mean by departmentalize is like I'm able to sort of like take that and not even like internalize it. Like take it, I heard you, but it's not internalized. I don't feel anything about it. I have a neutral feeling about it. It's just over there. It's telling me more about you than it is about me. And so now when I get comments all the time about the way that I look, or like your skin, or the way that I'm dressing, or like just I get compliments all the time.
As we were out, literally,
yeah,
we got several compliments today just about the sitch.
Yeah, I get compliments a
which
lot.
Is, you know, it's I mean, it's cool. I mean, I'm all in my head about you saying I get compliments a lot, and it's not a vanity thing.
It's not, no. It's
not at all. But I think that's a self-worth thing too. Like I don't see myself as like attractive or beautiful or
You don't? I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, it's never been a thing to me.
Interesting.
I feel this is why I have trouble connecting with the concept of seeing one's self-worth from a visual perspective.
Who are you comparing your beauty to? When you say you're not beautiful, you're not conventionally
I just
attractive.
I just don't think about it like that.
You don't think about it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's
I see others.
Comparison.
The creepiest part about it is whenever I see women, I put them in a box, like attractive or more or less attractive, right? I put them in a box, and that creeps me out even.
Yeah.
Because I kind of come from a concept within a family that everyone is beautiful.
Okay.
Like everything and everyone and who they are for what they are, to value them. You don't know what kind of 5 last seconds or minutes or years they've had. You don't know them. When you see someone, you get to know them. You get to know them. You don't judge them by color, race, face, lips, nose, nothing, right? And that's kind of the way I was raised, but yet at the same time, like I was a redheaded, I mean, you know, gangly looking, stupid looking redheaded kid when Mad Magazine was coming out. So you looked like, you know, the stupid freckle face, big eared redheaded kid that they made fun of all the time.
That was your reference point. Got it.
100%.
Because it all depends on your reference point. When you talk about beauty, I mean, like, I've been studying art. I've been taking art history courses, and one of my favorite works is by Kerry James Marshall. He's an artist. He's a painter, and he has this really amazing painting called School of Beauty, School of Culture, where he paints like a bunch of black women inside of like a hair salon that's like obviously like black owned, and there's like a poster that says like dark and lovely, and a poster that says like love your hair, and it's like all about like beauty and like seeing yourself as beautiful, and like seeing the image of yourself as is, and celebrating it. Wow. And sort of like escaping these like sort of these notions or these like sort of these ideas of like whatever the typecast or whatever, like you know, the
negative things that put people down for making them, they're just different and unique, man.
Yes.
But yet society puts people down that are different and unique.
Absolutely.
And that is the culture that I grew up in. As you know, look, I'm not playing the victim here, y'all. Let's be real right now. Like, I am definitely proud of who I am right now. I've always been proud of who I am. And the way I look, I have zero, you know, I can't control this shit. I didn't pick it. So you know what? I'm going to run with it, y'all. And that's just my attitude. And if I see other people that way, if I see other people and I'm like, damn, that girl's super fine, she's owning it and like running with it, and that girl next to her doesn't look, maybe she's, you know, taller, shorter, wider, skinnier, I don't know, but I think she's equally as beautiful because she's owning that shit, and that's her game. She didn't pick it. That's what makes her beautiful.
Yeah.
Is the reality of that.
My favorite kind of people are people who just happen to be beautiful. Like,
Man.
I always want to be like, I know I'm attractive. Of course, like
Are we all?
It's a thing. Like I know I'm attractive, but I think that like I always want to stay in a place or a frame of mind where like I just happen to be attractive. I don't ever want to be a man who like spends too much time in the mirror or spends too much time thinking about like what he looks like or what he's wearing the next day. Like I think that's so unattractive and so unnatural. But I always want to be someone who's sort of just like filling out the vibe and just like being myself and like, you know, really sort of like drumming to the beat of my own drum. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and if it's not that, then I think if it's not like sort of like unbothered chic, then it's not chic at all.
Yo, Venice fits you well then, bro.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Venice and Santa Monica fit you well then.
Yeah.
I'll say that from a SoCal perspective, dude.
I told you, yeah, for sure.
Man, how'd you get into fashion?
I mean, honestly, when I was super young, I knew I loved fashion more than I used to buy fashion magazines when I was when I was like 9 years old. My mother would send me to the grocery store, like, because out of my siblings, I was the one who was like the most like domestic and the most, I guess we would say, like responsible. So my mother would like send me.
You were the responsible, domesticated kid. Yeah. Wow, dude.
Can you imagine?
Wow, dude.
Can you imagine?
I mean, we've hung out in NYC. That no, I can't.
We're way off. We're way off the grid. We're way off the grid. But
Yeah,
anyway,
boy.
so my mother would she was a single mother, and so whenever she was like tired from working or whenever I guess she just wanted to challenge me, she would send me to the grocery store with a list, and she's like, get all these things. And my mother would give me her card with the intention of me going in to like buy like whatever produce we needed for like dinner. But I would go and I would like get like a magazine or whatever, and like of course I would use her money, so I would like try to like slip it in like my pants or like slip it under the bag so like she wouldn't see it when I got in the car.
Yeah.
I'd just be able to like take it to my room and like go through the magazine. Like ID magazine was like my favorite to grab. Like it was so good in the 90s, and I would just look at these editorials I would like see like how these editors in these styles would try to like express sort of like meaning or sort of like convey an idea through the fashion, through the fabrics or through the textures or through the colors. And it was like an art, and I really appreciate it. I'm like, oh, I really like looking at this. It was like looking at art. Because you're looking at an editorial, you're looking at things like...
They do a good job at it then,
oh
don't
my
they?
God, there's some editors that I grew up like honestly like obsessed with, that I've now met in New York and I've had like dinner with or drinks with or whatever. And like now I'm like, you know, at a level where like it's just like high and by, and it's like we're at eye level. But at the same time, I'm like, when I was 16 years old, I'm like, I used to literally follow this person through every single magazine. Wow. Whether it was Italian Vogue, whether it was ID, whether it was Vanity Fair. Like I knew who the editors were, I knew who the big editors were, I knew who the creatives were, I knew their names, I knew everything they were doing, every show they were doing, I knew which models they were working with, which celebrities they were working with. I was so drawn to fashion, and I was in Texas, and I was 10 years old.
Yeah. Wow. What do you think sent you that direction?
Well, I'm a creative spirit. I'm a free spirit. So it's whatever I'm drawn to. Like if it's, I'm definitely drawn to colors and textures.
You're drawn to it.
I'm a very visual person. So I'm drawn to like textures and colors and patterns and repetition. And so when I see something that catches my eye, like I'm like drawn to it, and I'm sort of like, if it's perplexing, I'm like literally sitting there like gauging it and trying to like make sense of it. So whether it falls under fashion or whether it falls under art, whether it falls under interior design or architecture, like I'm going to sort of like gauge it and sort of just try to like figure it out and make sense of it for me, for myself.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That explains a ton.
Yeah.
That really connected a lot of dots for me because it's been a while since we've caught up, right? And then we spent a lot of time together in the last couple of days. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
good times for sure.
And when we talk, you start to wonder where perspective comes from. You know, not that it was off for me, but I'm always interested in how the spin-off conversations happen, right?
Yeah.
You start here, and then that conversation evolves and spins off, but I do too, right? That's what I love about conversation, is that there shouldn't be boundaries and borders or rules or goggles on when you're doing it. you should take the lenses off. Like if you got a lens that helps you see clear, why don't you take them off and see how the conversation goes after that? You know,
it's worth it.
Yeah. But it was interesting to hear you connect concepts with dots today, but now it makes a lot of sense because fashion is fashion, but where your interest in fashion comes from is interesting to me. Because I sometimes wonder where our value system kind of coming back to where we were, right? Like,
right. Well, my parents were really stylish. My parents were super stylish. Like everyone I was around was super stylish, honestly. Like
really?
I grew up in Houston, Texas, like
right.
honestly, and I grew up in a community called Third Ward. So it was sort of like historically black community.
Yeah.
And
I know where Third Ward is.
Yeah, historically black community. And it was just sort of like, it had like a pocket or it just had a community within it that was like super fashionable. And that was a large group of the people. Like we were super fashionable, super flashy. You were like a celebrity. You were like, you know, a public figure, but within the community. And that was enough. It was enough because the way we felt about our community, if you were like the man in Third Ward, like you were the man anywhere. That's how we felt. And like, even when I look back on some of those figures and some of those people that I knew and like knowing their stories now, like as an adult, as someone who's intelligent and like knows more about those sort of subjects, like what they were going through and what they were up against to be able to thrive in those situations, whatever they were doing, however they were making money or however they were making do, like I respect that. Like there was so much sort of, you know, opposition towards, you know, black people being successful or just being able to survive. So for these people to have scored and done it well, and no matter how they did it,
it's a slam dunk in their mind.
Slam dunk,
a fucking score.
And
it's not just a score; it's a slam to same to me. Same to me.
Yeah.
Anybody, regardless of, you know, culture, commonalities, color, background, in my dumbass little mind, if you're killing it, you're killing it.
Yeah. Well, so the people in Third World, like people would dress like super, like they would dress how they felt about themselves. So you would know who's a man by the way that they dress. Like whoever, like we would call them like Superfly. Like, I mean, that was a term that came like way before I was even born. I don't want to even coin that term whatsoever, but like, you know, if you were like fly and like you were like on the corner, it didn't really matter like what you had, but like it was like, okay, like this is, you know, he's our center of attention right now. Like he's fly, he has style, he has really good style. And like I really absorbed a lot of that style. Like it was a super fly style. It was like really relaxed fitting clothing, but it was also for men, it was like a lot of like tailored clothing as well. And like women, sort of the black women would wear their hair in styles that were like literally like like they were not trying to acquiesce to European standards whatsoever. It was a celebration of black beauty within ourselves, and like they were their hair in fancy styles that like said like, look at me, but it also said like, this is for me, this is not even for you, like this is so distinct and so different, like I didn't get this for you, I got this for me. You know, you can take it in or you can leave it, but you know, so we were celebrating ourselves and we were celebrating our culture within this community, and it taught me a lot. But it definitely like influences my style so much. It influences the way that I dance, the way that I carry myself, the way that I sit, the way that I speak, like all those things. And
man, I did not know that about your past, dude.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I guess, yeah, it's something you should know.
Yeah.
It's something you like, yeah.
It's not it puts a lot of pieces of the puzzle together for me. I'm not gonna lie.
Nice.
I think context is critical.
Yeah.
But it doesn't change our relationship in any capacity. It's just really nice to see the onion layers get pulled back a little further, you know?
Well, I'm glad that I have layers.
Mad value
to have layers.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Not everyone has layers.
I feel that. And I didn't even know that you were just taking some classes from Yale. I learned that today too, right?
Yeah. And the class that I was taking was like, it wasn't even like, I mean, I could have taken a class. Of course I could have, or I still could take classes that are more so like, you know, something that'll like benefit me financially, like, or have some sort of immediate benefit. But I was more so into taking something that was going to sort of like benefit my 5-year or 10-year self.
Sure.
Because I was thinking about a lot about, especially when the pandemic first happened and we had a lot of time where it was just like everything was shut down. Like, you know, as a New Yorker, like we don't usually have time to sort of like really like sit with our thoughts or like sit with our, you know, you're maybe on the train and you have like this 40 minutes, but you don't have like a day at a time, or like you don't have the night to do that. Like you're on the go. So when I have the time to sort of like look inward, I'm like, you know, there's some things about me that like I know need to be addressed, but I'm not even at a intellectual sort of place to address those things myself. And maybe there's help out there, but I'm sort of like thinking it's like such a production to go ask for help, or maybe it's too expensive, or whatever the case may be.
Sure.
I would rather go inward myself and try to address those things with what I know now. And so I was talking to someone about that, and they were like I'm taking a course at Yale or whatever, and I was like, which course is it? And they were like explaining to me that it spoke to a lot of the things that I was sort of like dealing with at the time. So I was like, this is something that I'm interested in. And so I was like, I'm gonna check it out. And like she was like, you know, I'll send you
Damn.
you know, the information and sort of like sort of segue for you or whatever. And that's what happened. And I started taking that course, and I've been taking it throughout the pandemic. And like sometimes I'll like light candles while I'm doing it, but I'm listening to the professor, because she has a really sort of like calm, relaxing voice.
Nice.
And I don't really know how old she is, but her demeanor is like, I'm like, I know she lives near the water for sure.
Wow. Okay. I like the sound of that.
Yeah, she lives near the water. And
You've got to send this course to me. What's the name of it?
The Psychology of Well-Being.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to check that one out, man.
You should. Yeah.
I'm going to check that one out.
Yeah.
So DeAndre Santi, is that pronounced correctly, or Sante?
Close enough.
Santi. How can we get in touch with you? How can we find you?
You can find me at my Instagram. It's actually Dre Does Insta, DREDOES Insta. Which, I mean, if I message on there or whatever, I'll definitely reach back out to you. But I mean, I connect with artists from there, and like I connect with a lot of creatives using that sort of that outlet. Yeah, using that platform. But you know, I use it like as a journal. Like I live a really sort of like colorful, sort of really privileged life. Of course, to everyone's life, there are some things that we sort of hate, and we think that like they're, you know, the worst things about life. But in totality, I live a very privileged life, and it's really colorful, and I like to like capture those moments. So my social media is more like a journal. Like I'm capturing these moments for myself and for my future self, and I'm saying that like, this is where you were, like it was beautiful, like capture the best moment, whether you're with your friends or whether you're by yourself. Like, so it's sort of like social media is sort of like a journal for me, but it's also a way for me to connect with people. So I would love it if anyone wanted to reach out to me or wanted to get into contact with me. You know, they can see my story, like see my journal entries, and they can also reach out to me, which I'm always welcoming.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I've always, every single time we spend time together, it's very rewarding in the value system that I've got going anyway. Mm-hmm. So much appreciate the time. Much appreciate you sitting down and having a conversation with me, man. Absolutely. Thanks for having me. All right. Good to have you in North County, San Diego. I'm here. You. All right, man. You. We're going to get all freaky here. We're going to get all freaky here. We're gonna get all freaky here. Join us on the deck here in Freaky Town, USA. Just south of downtown Oceanside, CA. Stick around for a little while and meet the locals, yeah. They're a good old crew that's been around a while, yeah.